Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me today. My name's Nick. I'm Shelly Anderson's husband, and this is Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, the male response. Every week I respond to Shelly's podcast called Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage to give you a little bit of insight from the male perspective. I hope that I can join Shelly in giving you some good tips and tools and experiences that will help you and your relationship with your spouse. I hope you enjoy.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining me. So there's this idea that I think is really refreshing, and that is of deliverance, right? When we think of deliverance, we think of I'm trapped and I can't get out, like I'm stuck in this box and I can't get out of my own head, or maybe it's a physical thing. But most of the time, I think we are trapped emotionally. You have been trapped emotionally. I've been trapped emotionally. My wife, your husband, your wife, whatever, your friends. Deliverance is a beautiful thing. And that's what I'm going to respond to today to my wife's podcast. Restore Yourself, Restore Your Marriage, episode 150. She entitled that A Couple's Fight in a Restaurant. This is my response to that. So I'm going to go through a few things, but this idea of deliverance is beautiful. And it is something that all of us need. We all need redemption. Okay, I'm not going to get into all of the spiritual aspects of redemption, but deliverance is something that we can relate to, whether we're spiritual or not, or whether we feel like we're in a faith crisis or not. It doesn't matter. We want to be delivered. And when we're delivered, we're free. When we're delivered, we have the ability to have agency and autonomy, and we are empowered to choose happiness. I just want to tell you all right now, before I get into responding to what my wife talked about, I am constantly bombarded by opportunities to be trapped. And I do this to myself. I choose to think thoughts of blame and expectations, which are two of the themes that I'm going to talk about today, because that's what Shelly talked about in her podcast. But it is so easy to blame your spouse. It is natural. It is the way that we are wired, not only in our natural state as human beings, but also our media teaches us to blame other people and to become victims. Our media also teaches us what kind of expectations to have of other people. And usually it's our spouse. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? Like, okay, that's true to some degree, but what does that actually mean? Okay, so into what my wife was talking about. Shelly is so brilliant. The way she takes these situational facts and helps you through how to think about them so that you can apply them to yourself and then find ways out. Her podcast and what she teaches in her courses online on her website are all about deliverance, and they can be about redemption too, but that's up to you. So she talked about this couple in a restaurant. When we were there, we saw them. It was obvious they were fighting. I want to ask you this question. Can you say that you've never had a fight in a restaurant or wherever it is, right? I don't care if it's McDonald's or if it's Ruth's Chris or whatever. There are times when we fight. And one of the things that she said that I loved is good for this couple for being out on a date. They were out. It was obvious. They were having dinner together. They were alone. It was their time to talk through some things. Yes, that's great. Do that. Sometimes it's going to end up in a fight, right? And you try to keep it down. You're like, oh, we can't say this too loud. But no matter what, when you get passionate and heated, it's going to happen sometimes. Okay. So let's just admit it. We all get in fights. If you're married, if you are even engaged, right, and you're not married yet, you hopefully have been in a fight before you get married. When people ask me, what should I do? What are some of the things that we can do to prepare before we get married? I'm like, dude, get in some kind of a fight or an argument or a disagreement with the person that you're going to marry so that you can see, first of all, that they're not crazy, that they're somewhat rational, and that they want to work through whatever it is that you're going through. You want to marry somebody who is somewhat rational. And even though it's passionate and everything seems so great when you're engaged, there is some truth to marrying somebody who has the ability, at least, to work through some things. And if you're married and you've lost that ability, it's time to get it back, and it's time to do it right now. And I promise you, you will find deliverance and peace and all these awesome things that you can enjoy more in your life. The second thing I want to talk about before I get into this story and kind of break down what my wife said, we are here on this earth to suffer. But is that the end all be all? Are we here just to suffer? I don't believe that at all. Is suffering real? Yes, it's real. You suffer, I suffer. Let's just accept that. Let's accept that life is hard, relationships are hard, marriage is hard. Okay, now, what is the point of the suffering? The point is to help us learn and grow and also to get closer to our spouse, our children, or whoever it is we have a relationship with. And that is a beautiful thing. And that takes thought work because a lot of times as men, we might just be like, you know what? It's my lot in life just to suffer. I got to suffer this, with this woman for the rest of my life because that's what I committed to. I'm just going to suffer and I'm just going to be okay with that and just deal with it and just settle. Well, if that's where you're at, you need some help. You need to get your skills up. You need to start thinking about how you're going to approach that suffering because you can overcome one suffering at a time. And it doesn't mean it's going to go away forever, but it will bring so much more life into your life, or I should say light into your life. And you will be able to enjoy what this means to be married and have relationships. Now to intimacy. She talked about a few things. She talked about one of the things that the husband said to his wife when they were fighting that we overheard was, and I'm going to get this right. He said, "This is all your fault." Okay. So that was the blaming. At times, is it our spouse's fault that something happens? Sure. But is that what you're going to land on that? You're just going to say, "This is all your fault. There's nothing I can do about it. This is for you to fix." Okay, well, the beauty of that is that there are different ways to approach this. Okay, I don't know what he was talking about. And are there times when we are at fault? Yeah. But blame and not looking at ourselves and what part we have to play in that is not healthy. And it's not something that we need to be stuck with. That is bondage. Again, we're going to talk about delivering ourselves from that thinking. Okay, then she talked about how the wife became angrier and angrier after he said this. Well, of course, because she's getting blamed. And it's probably not true that it was all her fault. He probably had a part to play in this, but now all of a sudden she is the one who's getting all the blame. Okay. Now, the next thing that she said was, "You should know this about me by now." I don't know what that was. That's just something we heard. It's something that we can all relate to. Okay. Now, if you don't know me by now, you will never know me. Is that where we land? Let me hold on. There's some lyrics and there's a song by a band called Simply Red. I'm just going to read these lyrics. "If you don't know me by now, you will never, never know me." And here's the first verse. "All the things that we've been through, you should understand me like I understand you. Now, girl, I know the difference between right and wrong. I ain't going to do nothing to break up our happy home. Don't get so excited when I come home a little late at night because we only act like children when we argue, fuss, and fight. If you don't know me by now." Okay, you guys know the song, right? In the next verse, he says, "We've all got our own funny moods. I've got mine, woman. You've got yours too. Just trust in me like I trust you. As long as we've been together, it should be so easy to do. Just get yourself together, or we might as well say goodbye. What good is a love affair when we can't see eye to eye?" Okay, so basically he's saying, look, woman, first of all, he's blaming her. He's saying, get your crap together. If you don't know me by now, then you're never going to know me. Like this song, as catchy as it is full of lies, Stephen. It's lies, okay? Like this is all about him pointing his finger at her and saying, "Don't break up our happy home. I'm never going to do anything wrong. When we argue and we fuss and fight, it's when we act like children." Well, that's true. But here's the real truth in this song is if we don't know each other by now, let's do something about it, right? Let's talk about it. And so one of the things that Shelley said that I loved is she started talking about how this trap of how we should know something about somebody else, or when we blame, those sort of the two traps you talk about. But this is the blame one, I think, is a little more obvious. But when we have expectations, they're usually unmet. And one of the things that Shelley likes to say is pack that shit up, right? Someone who should do something, pack that up. Stop having those expectations. And I love this because you know what? Most of the time, when we have expectations of other people, we don't even tell them what those expectations are. We might think that we have told them that, but most of the time we actually don't. And so your relationship is going to get worse over time if that's the expectation you have. Now, a little side note here. I can imagine that this couple, they have this like fight at a restaurant, and then later on they say sorry, and they kiss and make up, and they have like passionate, like, you know, angry sex later, and they think everything's okay, right? How many times have you had a fight and then just said sorry? Oh, I'm sorry that happened. Oh, and then you apologize and they apologize, and then you have this passion and you make up. Okay, well, what did you do about it? Like, did you change anything over time? I promise you that if you just let passion solve your problems, over time, your relationship will get worse. I've seen that because as a man, what do I want? After I get in a fight with my wife, I want her to show me that she's okay. And by, being okay with us being intimate, I'm like, oh, everything's fine. How many times have you had sex with your spouse thinking everything's fine? Then you realize it's actually not fine. Okay. Here's some free help. I'm going to give you a little bit of free help. I'm going to respond to what Shelly said, and I'm going to give you my take on it. I'm not going to give it all to you. I'm going to start actually adding more of this free help to those who are members of our Make It Meaningful membership. And if you're a member, you're going to get more of this answer. We're not going to give it all to you in this podcast. Honestly, we got to make a living somehow. And so free podcasts are great. And we're going to give you a lot of free stuff through these podcasts, but you're not going to get it all in a podcast. Our courses are amazing and our membership is amazing. If you really want help and you really want to get better in your relationship, then you got to join the membership. It's something that will help you on a consistent basis and it'll give you more details on what to do. Okay, here you go. This is the truth about arousal. Okay. When Shelly said men are like a microwave oven and women are like a slow cooker, there might be some truth to that. Okay. It takes some time for them to get going. But this is the most profound thing that she said. She said that men might think, well, she just needs more foreplay. So she's like a slow cooker. She just needs a little more foreplay. And she's thinking, I wish you'd listen more. I wish you would take more time to hear what I'm really thinking and what I'm going through. Those are two totally different things. I like to joke that my wife comes first, and you can take that as a sexual innuendo or not. She does come first, but it's not just sexually, right? Everything for me, I've got to put her first emotionally. I've got to listen to her. I've got to go through the process of becoming one with her emotionally. There are 24 different types of intimacies. Only 2 of those are physical. Okay, there's physical intimacy, holding hands, hugging, those kinds of things. Okay, that might lead to sexual. And then there's sexual intimacy. All the other intimacies, they all are emotional or psychological or intellectual. They're all about connecting. And if you think, men, that you're going to connect with your wife just by giving her more foreplay or just holding her hand, and you fall apart when a crisis comes up, or you don't want to listen to her, or you don't want to help with the kids, or you don't want to be creative with her, her arousal will slowly die. If you think that your wife doesn't give you enough physical intimacy or sexual intimacy, stop blaming her, look at yourself, and start figuring out what you need to do to be connected to your wife so she'll want to be physical with you. It is the most incredible breakthrough that any man can have, is when they realize how to love and care for his wife. And if she's not loving and caring for you the way you want to be loved and cared for, stop blaming her. Stop having those expectations. Focus on the ways that you can change. And I promise you, if you do that, she'll change. I'm going to stop it here. There's a lot more that we're going to share for our members. Go to shelly.andersoncoaching.com. Look up the membership. See all the things that you're going to get. You're going to get way more out of this conversation with the members, with the membership. I promise you, if you will start taking the time to really study this whole idea of connection and understand it for yourself and to do it for your wife or for anyone else you want to have a good relationship with, this will change your life, whether it's personal life or at work, whatever. This is the true alpha that the media doesn't teach. And I'm going to go through that a little bit more for the members. All right. So for the podcast, that's all I've got for today. Peace.